All right. Welcome to another episode of Design on Purpose. As you can see, if you are watching the YouTube or watching the video of this recording, you can see that I'm in a very different environment to usual. And I put a little note out on my Instagram, to see if I should do a little bit of a solo pod to give some context about what's been happening for me the last 5 months or since I last recorded a podcast, and the verdict was to do a solo pod. So I'm just going to do a little quick podcast. This is actually my third attempt at this pod. I did one here, sitting here with my friend Emily, who was actually guiding me through the podcast, and actually I lost probably 70% of the audio the first time I recorded, and I think that was a bit of a sign from the universe to say, hey, actually, no, you really need to do it on your own. And then I went down the beach actually for a second attempt, and as happens in Thailand, as soon as I sat down, within moments, they started packing up the umbrellas and making a lot of noise around me, and then people came in. It was dead calm before I sat down. I watched that spot for a little while to make sure I'd chosen the right spot to sit. And then within moments that happened, and then someone started a chainsaw or a Jenny, maybe 15 to 20 minutes into the podcast. So I'm here again. I'm doing it now. This is the third time. And I really wanted to get the audio right too. I know listening to podcasts when the audio is a bit out, it can just kind of really diminish the experience. And I think to be true to my ethos as a designer, I'd really like to honor that. And so now I'm recording that again. So here I am in Phuket. I'm in Bang Tao in Thailand. And I've been here for the last 5 months. I did come back to Australia for a couple of weeks, but I've been here for pretty much the last 5 months. So in August, September last year, so 2023, Tom decided to leave our business, Wordplay. I won't go into too much detail there, but basically I had to pack up the studio, pack up the house, and I took some time for myself to kind of recalibrate and work out what I would have liked to do. I would have loved to have kept going with the business, with Wordplay, but unfortunately it wasn't able to get documentation signed on that. So I'm now closing up Wordplay, and I've got a few other opportunities on the go. I've been continuing design work, continuing the work that I do in co-design and collaboration, continuing my strategic design. I've got some really great clients that I'm working with at the moment, but I'm now really working as a more of a consultant and under my own personal brand. And I've also been working on some products that I'm getting ready to release, and I'll probably get those out, or at least a few of those out, within the next year. So that's kind of on the business side of things. Still very much, committed to my purpose and my mission. Definitely still very much in alignment with the vision of Planet Earth as a garden and work of art for all life. So that will continue. I think that's the thing with a business, is that when it's so aligned to your true self and your values, it doesn't actually matter about the container or the medium to which you actually deliver that purpose to the world. It's really, that doesn't really change too much. So I'm continuing pretty much doing what I was doing, but under a different kind of umbrella. And I've got some really great partnerships forming at the moment for some work projects, which is really epic. And I'm enjoying exploring and making new connections and collaborations and friendships and in the business context. As for my location, where I am, so I am in, as I mentioned, I'm in Phuket, Thailand. I'm in Bang Tao. So when Tom decided to leave, and I packed up and had left the Northern Rivers, I just took some time for myself in Sydney, reconnected with my friends, reconnected with family. And what I did was just kind of, I didn't want to make any decisions like in the moment of how I was feeling, because I think the work that I'd been doing this last 12 months, I've been working with Joe Rushton, who's a Paul Chek faculty member, on a course called Path of Light. And what I learned on that course was that you really need to be mindful about where you're making your decisions from, because if you're making it from a place of victim or perpetrator or warrior or what's the other one? Rescuer, then you end up back on the karmic wheel. So what I decided to do was just to get myself to a place where I could be seated in a place of neutrality, so I could make the best decision that was in alignment to my truth, which is kind of counterintuitive to what I have done in the past, I would say. I haven't been as aware of that kind of decision-making process. So this was I think it was a real maturing for me, and really stepping into and really leaning into the discomfort of that process, because you really, especially for me, I'm like very Virgo. I like to make decisions. I like to know where I'm headed. It's very difficult for me to actually not make a decision, or not sometimes actually making decisions are difficult for me, but they have been difficult for me. Sorry, that's not what I mean. I like to know where I'm going. I like to have a plan. So for me to not make a decision on the plan of where I'm headed to is sometimes quite difficult for me. So I didn't go into my natural or my programmed pattern of making a decision based on that moment. I waited until I felt strong in myself and clear in my mind before I made any decisions. So when I was in Sydney, I was sitting on the beach. I was at Wiley's Baths, and just I was doing some remote work with a client, and I was at Wiley's Baths, and just sitting quietly, and I had this intuition come to me around visiting Thailand. So I don't know where that came from. I have no idea. Never really thought about to come to Thailand. And what's actually really interesting about that, and it's funny how we manifest these things, it's like our higher self actually knows what somehow winds things into our story, is that before we recorded the Design on Purpose podcast, every episode before we would record, I would play a song by a Thai reggae band here called Job to Do, and that song was Do 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 To Tum. And I would play this just to kind of get us pumped up for the podcast. And then when the song ended, and the song goes on for quite some time, when the song ended, we would start recording the podcast. So here I am in Thailand, in Bang Tao, and I was sitting at Wiley's Baths and had this intuition to go to Thailand. And so I messaged a friend of mine, Angie Pa. She's a Muay Thai champion, and her partner John Wayne Pa was a Muay Thai champion. And I was like, hey, I'm thinking about going to Thailand. I knew they would know where to go. I'm like, thinking of going to Thailand. Do you have a suggestion about where I should go maybe and do some training? So she messaged me back and she's like, you got to go to this place, Bang Tao, MMA, Muay Thai, because it's really great and you're going to love it. And it's only been open for a couple of years, and it's got an offering with Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, they do MMA, they do kickboxing, they do kettlebells, they do mobility, movement, just a whole heap of stuff. Boxing, classic boxing, got some great coaches in there. So I did that. I didn't think too much about it. I thought, well, wow, what a unique opportunity. When does it come about that in your adult life you do not have responsibility for a home, you don't have a relationship, you are pretty much free in terms of, obligations to your country, in terms of, living and running a business and family and friends and whatever. So I was able to be mobile. and I took the opportunity. The only thing I had was my dog Sumo, and I was able to leave Sumo with my mum. So he's now living a beautiful farm life and fattening up a bit with my mum. So that's what I did. So I booked my trip, and I contacted a friend of mine, my friend Jarrett, who I hadn't seen in quite some time, and I knew that Jarrett had just gone through a breakup and had also been made redundant from his job. And so I contacted Jarrett, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about going to Thailand to do some training. How do you feel about coming with me? And so Jarrett, the very next day, booked his flights. And so we ended up here in Thailand together. And I invited Jarrett because I hadn't seen him in quite some time. I knew he was going through a rough patch, and he doesn't drink. And something that I really wanted to do when I got to Thailand was to just get really healthy, to stay away from alcohol, and just to be really clean, and just to focus on my training and my health and my well-being. That being said, I have had a couple of really great nights out in Thailand, but for the majority of the time I've been on the Singha sodas and been having a coffee or whatever, but I've been steering clear of parties, and that is actually quite difficult to do here if you know Thailand and Phuket. It's very easy to go and sit down here on the beach in the evening, and it's beers are very cheap here compared to Australia. So if you do like a beer and the beach is a great place for it, then it can be a bit of a temptation. But I've been very committed to my training and to my personal development since I've been here. So I've been steering clear of that for the most part. So I've been here. I came out here in December, and since being here, like when I first got here to Thailand, my health was not great. I didn't know, I didn't have any symptoms or anything of ill health, but I just, when I look at a photograph of me back when I arrived and then what I look like now, my composition, my physique, I definitely look like a completely different person. If you want to see my transformation since I've been here, and actually I only got it at 2 months. It's even more different now. I should do an updated image of that. But if you go and have a look at me on my TikTok and my Instagram, there's a little video there of when I first got here, and I was so swollen. I was so full of cortisol. I was so stressed out, and it was just, it's pretty wild what stress does to your body. Like it really sneaks up on you. You don't realize that it's happening, and because it almost becomes normalized after a while, like that feeling of stress and like just being on edge, right? So if you can imagine being a business owner in Australia over the last, or around the world, I guess, over the last 3-4 years, like, gosh, we've had so much to deal with. We've had COVID, we've had lockdowns and all of that, and for myself as well, I didn't get vaccinated, so I got, I lost a majority of our contract work and a lot of the work that we were doing in person. I was working in big firms in person, doing design shops and co-design pieces of work with large organizations that had big budgets, and we'd roll in with mobile environments, and we'd run these design shops and design forums in person. So when that all fell apart because people were remote working, and which is, I don't think is a bad thing either. I think that's definitely opened up a lot of opportunity for me now, but over this while it's been very challenging. So then we had to obviously learn skills in production and pretty much set up our business online and work. We pretty much had to set up a TV studio, which is actually another blessing, because look at what I've learned to do now with podcasting and audio and sound and visuals and everything. But it has been very stressful to keep a business going during that time. And I think as well now with the financial situation around the globe, it's very challenging to. I think a lot of strategic work or a lot of creative work, it's quite hard to sell at this time, depending on your obviously your relationships and your network. But we definitely suffered, especially I think as well moving to a small remote town in northern New South Wales, and we just could not be in Sydney during all that was going on with the lockdowns and all that. So we had a big impact on our business, living in a very hyper stressed container, and that definitely takes an impact on your health and well-being and your posture. I'm really big into posture. I've been doing a lot of work on my posture. I had a very bad kyphosis and I had a slight scoliosis some years back, and I've been, over time I've been healing that. But definitely with the stress and the cortisol, that has that impacts that really takes you steps back with your work and your movement, mobility, and your posture. And your mood, you just don't feel great or very happy when you're so pumped full of cortisol and when you're not feeling good in your body. So I came here, the first 3 weeks was extremely difficult. Like, it was fun, but it was extremely difficult, like so hard. The training is so hard. You get here after being pretty much sedentary for however long, and I was doing a bit of jiu-jitsu, but not like the training here. Like, once you start training in Thailand, and it is so hot and humid, the climate, and you get here and you start training like 3 hours a day, and I'm not talking like 3 hours of the same types of training. I definitely don't believe that's a good thing for you, but mixing it up, doing a bit of weight training, doing some martial arts training, and doing a bit of mobility. And I was so sore that for the first weeks, I couldn't even like move or turn around in my bed at night because I was so sore. So I overcame that over maybe a month or 6 weeks worth of training. And I definitely am better for it now. I don't get the same kind of pain in my body, but it definitely hits you. And then as well, you end up with an immune kind of response as well, because you end up training, because you're training so much, and you're in an environment where there's all these new bacteria, and your immune system goes down a little bit. You do tend to get a little bit of a flu or at least a bad cold for a week or so when you do get to Thailand and start training like that. Definitely noticed quite a few people that had experienced that since being here. But yeah, so the gym's a very interesting place as well. I've met so many incredible people in there, and this gym is a gym that attracts probably some of the biggest UFC and Bellator or fighters out here, and I've trained with quite a few of them, and it's been so incredible to be around people that have such an amazing mindset like that. Like the one thing about fighters, and this has been like a secondary, or it's like an outcome of this whole experience for me, is that what I didn't really expect to get out of the experience is my shift in mindset. I mean, obviously that was going to come with the training, and when you start getting really disciplined with your training and your physical training, then your mindset's definitely going to shift. But being around people that are so determined and have such solid mindsets in the face of setbacks and adversity, and you meet some of these people and you have conversations with these people, it is incredible. So one of the most unexpected outcomes of this whole trip has been around my really big shift in mindset, right? Now let me just take a sip of this. So yeah, like some of the people in my classes, like I've had Wei Ling Zhang, like strawweight champion, amazing, beautiful woman from China. I've been training with some of the Bellator guys. They were here for a little while. I had some great conversations with a Scottish Bellator fighter named Mark Ewan, and he is really into a lot of this similar stuff to me in terms of Joe Dispenza and all the quantum stuff. So it was some really cool. Had some great convos with him. We shared some meditations, and I look forward to seeing his story as he progresses through his career too. What a great guy. And so just the people, and I've made some really great friends here too. I've got this really amazing friend, Emily, who was she's a powerhouse from the Nordics. Was really high up in the sales. I don't know what you call she was like a sales executive for Splunk and for Salesforce. So I've been learning a lot from her in terms of her process actually, and how our processes actually quite overlap. And then I made another really great friend, Graham Hill from Botswana, owns a business in South Africa called Cappuccinos, and he's just an awesome dude from Africa, and we've just really connected and had some really amazing deep conversations. So the people here are next level. Like, I've just really loved and just enjoyed so much connecting with some new people, and so many different backgrounds. It's pretty wild who the types of people that mixed martial arts attracts. So that's the training side of things. Oh, and also kettlebells. I've been getting really, really into kettlebells and mobility. Kettlebells, I just did not expect. That really snuck up on me, but I'm like kind of addicted to kettlebells right now. And then I've been doing mobility classes with a guy named Anwar in the gym there. So Peter Fornick does the kettlebells, and then Anwar's in there doing the mobility classes. And I'm hoping to actually interview Anwar tomorrow night before I leave Thailand. I'm actually leaving Thailand on Thursday, heading to Indonesia, but I'll get into that later. So while I have been here, I have been really focused on rebuilding my business. I've also been really focused on kind of recalibrating my nervous system, which has kind of been my number one priority. And I have a bit of a funny story about that, actually. So I've met some interesting people here, as I mentioned, and one of the guys that I met here is a guy called Jürgen, and he's a really... He's an Ironman coach, like a triathlon coach. Like, these guys are crazy. People come out here to train with him, and they do like hundreds of kilometers a week. These people, like biking, swimming, running, and he's doing it every week. But anyway, he's a bit of a gun. He's got a coaching school here, and I met him down here at one evening, and he said to me, why don't you come out and do some water safety for me? We're doing an 8-kilometer swim back here to Serene Beach. And I was like, all right, well, wasn't sure how he knew I was going to be able to paddle a kayak, but I took him up on it, and I went out. I thought, well, that'll be an interesting experience for me. So got down here at 6 in, and I went out with the swimmers at this swim. And so Jürgen's on the jet ski, he's cruising around. He's this handsome guy with, tan, blonde hair, blowing a cigarette, blowing in the wind. He's cruising around on his jet ski. And I'm there on the kayak, and he's, this pack of swimmers is now gone out. They're swimming out past nearly to the headland, and I'm now with this one guy at the back of the pack of swimmers. And there's a lot of distance between us, and I could tell this guy was very nervous about being out in the water. And to be honest, I wouldn't really want to be swimming. I don't like to be swimming out there, especially growing up in Australia. You don't know what's down there under the water, and I don't want to see it. But that's why I used to row surf boats, because we didn't have to deal with that. But I was out there with this guy, and he was so far behind, and he kept stopping and going, oh, where are we? How much further do we have to go? And are we nearly there? And he kept getting lost. He was zigzagging. He wasn't picking a direct line and swimming to the headland. And now this other pack of swimmers is like right back around the headland. And I'm watching this guy, and I'm thinking, I'm kind of having this download about this experience, and I'm watching how this guy is dealing with this situation. And at the time, I was feeling quite anxious about what to do with Wordplay. I really wanted to keep the business, and I had been getting a lot of advice from quite a lot of really smart people about what to do, and I had a plan, and I wanted to keep the business, and then I wasn't going to keep the business, and then I was, and then I wasn't. Anyway, I decided to keep the business, and in the end, and now obviously I have to let it go, but I was watching this guy, and I was thinking, wow, like there's a real interesting, profound thing that's going on here. I'm a vibrational match for this person, and I was really there present with him, because I could totally understand what he was experiencing. I just had this kind of feeling around like understanding this anxiety, and so I was just in witness of this experience, and he just really wanted to be close with the kayak, because he was a bit frightened, and I think he was a cyclist. I don't think he's actually a swimmer. So anyway, so I had this experience, and then when we managed to finally get into the beach, I paddled with him back. When we did manage to get into the beach, I before I came in, I took this photo of myself in the kayak. I just kind of wanted to remember that moment. And then when I got into the beach and we were having coffees, and I checked my phone, and I just opened Instagram, and then I saw Nick Gibson had posted, I think she was in Bali at the time, and she'd posted a photo of herself in the exact same photo, cap backwards, in the same kayak, right? And I'm like, wow, like this is pretty profound. And I just knew that she would be able to help me in that moment. I don't know. So I just followed my intuition again, and I just reached out to Nick, and I was like, hey, listen, I know you probably, don't take on people, but would you be open to take me on as a one-on-one, and I'm going through this, and would you be able to help me kind of work through it? And she was so lovely and generous to me. She definitely, she said, Nick said to me, I don't normally take on one-on-ones, but I'm humbled that you asked me, and yes, I'd be definitely willing to work with you. So when I started working with Nick, I had a first session with her, and the first thing that she pretty much asked me was, well, actually, there was a question, but before we got to the question, she mentioned to me, now there's all this going on with your business, okay? Let's not even go there right now. Let's park that over there, and let's actually focus on your nervous system. So we need to get you to a place where your nervous system is regulated and calm before you can start making decisions about that. And I had awareness of this. I knew I needed to do this, but I just couldn't bring myself to that place. And I don't know if I had the toolkit for it. And it was really good to have feedback in a way where I could find that calibration. So anyway, Nick posed this to me. And then the other question that she made me meditate on, she asked me to meditate on, was around the deeper piece around the anxiety. And it was around, the question was, why is Rix worthy of living a fulfilling life? Why are you worthy of living a fulfilling life? That was a question that she asked me. And I never really thought that. I never really thought of the disconnect there for me and how that was causing problems. And it was a really deep programming that I had. So I sat on this beach for days and days just meditating on this question that was asked. And a lot came up in that. There was so much in that. And to put it simply, I discovered a couple of things in that question. The first thing that I uncovered was that I feel like I'd never really felt worthy of receiving or having this life, this fulfilling life, and I had to really go through a deep process of uncovering where that came from and kind of reconsidering what that actually meant for me and what actually a fulfilling life actually means. And I also kind of had to I had this other thing drop in around compassion, actually, which was really random. It was around decision making, and it was around compassion, and it was around the fact that the word compassion has the word compass in it, right? And compass is to navigate. A compass is used to navigate, and so when a lot of what I learned on this course with Joe was that the word compassion and the word empathy are two completely different things. So a lot of people mistake empathy and compassion as the same thing, but they aren't. They're two separate things. So empathy is when you actually feel for somebody. You actually go, oh, I feel sorry, or I feel their pain, or I feel this. And I had been in empathy before. But actually, empathy is actually coming from a judgmental place, because you're actually putting your own lens or your own judgment on that person's experience. Whereas somebody might be living on the street and they're actually completely happy and in complete joy and loving life. So you never really know. And so that the difference with compassion is that you're just witnessing something without judging. You're witnessing something without putting your own lens of what that must feel like. And that's a very different place. And so when you're in compassion and you're not putting that lens or that judgment on it, then you're actually able to make a decision from a place of neutrality. And that's why I think that compass is in the word compassion. It was like, whoa, my mind kind of blew when that dropped in. And then the other thing I noticed about this question was that the fulfilling life, worthy of living a fulfilling life. And I'm just getting so much more from this, because every being on this planet or in this universe is worthy of living their fullest expression. That's what nature wants. Nature wants you to evolve. Nature wants, the universe wants you to grow. That's what nature does. Nature learns through feedback. Nature grows. Nature is designed by design to become by divine design is to become its fullest expression, because that's what the universe wants of us. That's divine will. So when you're feeling like you're not worthy of that, you're actually getting in the way of divine expression. You're actually interfering with the will, the divine will. So you actually really need to get out of the way, because if you have that limiting belief, you're actually blocking godly expression. And that was a really profound that was just so profound when that dropped in, because I'm like, yeah, that's what we are. And that's the vision that I have, is planet Earth as a garden and work of art for all life, because that is life living at its fullest expression, in full collaboration with its environment. So I got a lot out of that, and I want to say a big thank you to Nick Gibson. And Nick, I do look forward to connecting with you again, and I did get to meet you in person and briefly. But I would love to get you on the podcast at some point, whether it's in San Francisco or whether it's in Australia sometime, or maybe even Thailand. Who knows? But yeah, I've been working with Nick a little bit, and I actually Nick invited me to be one of the mentors on her accelerator, so the Love Out Loud accelerator, and that's been really fun. And I've made some epic friends through that too, the girls from Colors of Love. So that was cool. So I've had some really beautiful things come out of this connection with Nick, and yeah, it's been great. So that was my kind of journey with my nervous system and reprogramming. And I'm not saying it's done. I think that work is ever evolving. But that was a really incredible experience, and I'm still kind of learning and reprogramming myself. And I still have little wobbles here and there, little, moments where I kind of get back in that fear vibration, but I now have the tools and the awareness to kind of pull myself out of that and just kind of stick to the vision, right? So, yes. And that as well, like I've been doing things in that with my daily practice. I've had the training, but I've also been doing things like going for a walk on the beach in the morning. I'll leave my phone at my accommodation and I'll just take my shoes off. I'll walk on the beach. Get some sun, morning sun, get some steps, get some, negative charge ions on my feet, grounding. I will, get a nice high protein breakfast in, train a little bit, do some client meetings, get a really nice solid 4-hour block of client work in. And the work is such good quality because my mind is clear and I'm doing it in a really focused place. So I've been getting that in, and then in the evenings been going to the sauna and the ice baths and doing some hot cold therapy. And I've been getting in this Russian sauna with all these crazy Ruskies, and they crank this sauna, man. I can't even, these guys get this thing to 100+ degrees. They get in there with a towel. They start whipping this towel around. Everyone brings in their little potions to put on the rocks, like seawater and special herbs and all these things. They come in there with sticks and start whacking people. And if you wanted to learn how to sauna, you got to get in the sauna, get in the schwitz with some Ruskies, because gosh, man, I've definitely upped my sauna game. That's for sure. I haven't got into the little hat yet, but I'm not far away, I think. So that's also been really helping me, just the routine, and getting that that nice end of day sauna, ice bath, mineral bath. Getting in the magnesium. That's been really helping me. I've also continued to do the parasite cleansing. So I've now done my 6th round of parasite cleanse. You guys would have heard me talk about that a few times on the podcast. Seems to be a hot topic on here. But still, liver fluke's still coming out. So if you haven't done a parasite cleanse, I definitely recommend that you get started on that, because you might not have any symptoms, but I can guarantee you, if you haven't done a parasite cleanse, there's more likely than not you do have them. And this week as well, I've also done the Zen cleanse. I've been carrying around this Zen cleanse, 1-day gut cleanse, and which pulls the mucoid plaque out of your intestine or your colon, and I've done that as well. And just cleaning things out at the moment, mentally, physically, financially, everything. So it's been good. It's been a big cleanup year for me. And for the future, I definitely am planning to continue the podcast. You would have seen, if you've gotten this far in this podcast, you would have seen that I released one episode with Jag, which I recorded in September last year. So I got one episode out with Chrissy, and then I got the last episode recorded in the Lobster Shack in Murwillumbah home in September with Jaguar Heart. So that one should have already been out, and then I've already recorded one with Courtney, the Taekwondo technician. And I think just based on the feedback that I got, I'm now kind of splicing this one in between. So it's not quite in chronological order because I recorded Courtney's episode before this one. I've actually recorded this one 3 times. But I just thought it would be better just to give a bit of context. So I'm going to continue with the podcast. My goal with the podcast is to get that thing remote. Right now, I'm kind of working with just a bit of hodgepodge of equipment here. I've kind of hacked things together. I went back to get the podcasting gear back to Australia for a couple of weeks. Could not get the gear, so I've just managed to kind of scrounge some things together. I'm recording on an iPhone here. I've got one Sony here. I've got managed to keep a couple of these Rode mics, which are amazing. And then I'm using that Allen and Heath mixer and just my laptop to record the audio. And then obviously backup audio. I know I need to do backup now because I've lost this a couple of times. But I want to get this set up mobile, and I've found a gear list to do that. It's going to cost me a few grand to get the gear together to get this thing mobile. But that's what I'm planning to do. I'm planning to get to the States in July, and then get to Africa in September to go and see my friend Graham. So I've got a few podcasts kind of planned within those locations. So I'm planning to take this thing mobile. I want to keep interviewing people about these challenges that we're facing as humanity, and what's actually some of the solutions that we can get together to solve these problems. And that is my plan, is to continue interviewing people. I want to get these podcasts out at least one a month for this year. And then my plan is to get at least 2 out a month in 2025. And I'm going to keep working from there. I'm going to see how I go. There's a lot of work involved in these podcasts, between recording and editing and artworks and everything. So just that's the plan with the podcast. Going to keep going with Design on Purpose. Business-wise, I have been picking up some really great clients, so one-on-one clients. I've been doing some strategy work with clients. So what I've been doing is doing 2-hour weekly sprints with clients and then shipping some stuff in between. So I've been taking on some retainers, and I've got some really epic clients. One of them actually is Syntropic Solutions, and they plant water out in the forest. And that's one of the people I actually want to podcast. Is they're working with some guys out in Texas who were planting a food forest out in the middle of the desert. I mean, it's actually amazing. These guys were growing bananas out in Lightning Ridge. They've built a rainforest out in Lightning Ridge. Is pretty wild. And had all these butterflies and insects, tropical insects, like flying around in this little oasis they built in the desert. So, great client. And yes, I've got another few in the similar kind of context. Everyone is helping with this crisis or has some part of the solution to this crisis that we're facing as humanity. So I'm going to continue to do that. And a lot of the work is basically just jumping in and finding automations and efficiencies and process mapping and working with the team to put together a weekly or a fortnightly sprint to actually go through, and then the team will start working on implementing some of these things that we pull out of our design sessions. So it's been really great. And I'm going to continue working like that. And then I've also got some other bigger opportunities with for like bigger contract projects also on the go at the moment, running teams on projects, which I can't really talk about on here at this stage. So that's kind of like business and podcast update, and I think that's pretty much it for now. On Thursday, I will be leaving Thailand and heading to Indonesia. So my visa's up here on the 16th of May. So, but this is, so I'm going to leave here on Thursday. I'm going to head to Canggu. I've got a great place to stay there. And I'm going to be there for a little while, kind of working on my business. And there's a couple of people that I'm going to hang out with in Indonesia. And then from there, probably heading back to Australia for a little bit for a client project, and then off to Africa. So, or off to the States and then off to Africa is the plan. So we'll see how that pans out. Obviously, things are very in the flow at the moment, and things might change very quickly, as they tend to do, and that's something that you definitely have to be okay with, especially being in Thailand. It seems to happen quite frequently around here. The change and chaos happens quite quickly, and you just got to adapt. So, but the plan right now is to be in Australia, or Indo, Australia, the States, and then Africa, and then back to Thailand probably in December for some more Muay Thai and kettlebells. So that's the update from me. Keep your eyes peeled on my social media channels, because I have been really focusing on my content on Instagram and TikTok, and I've been putting a little bit up on LinkedIn as well, some posts on LinkedIn. And if you don't already, please like and subscribe. Give us a follow on Instagram. It's at Rixlee, and on TikTok it's at Captain Rix. And on YouTube, you can find, obviously, at Design on Purpose. If you're not watching this already, we're on Spotify, all the major podcasting platforms. You can also find at Design on Purpose on Instagram. I cut up some of these reels and pop them up there, if you don't follow us on already. And I think by this stage as well, if anyone wants to contribute to the podcast to keep this thing going, as mentioned, I do want to get some gear and get this thing mobile. I have put quite a bit of investment into this podcast to date, actually, just with gear and production and everything like that. But by this stage, I am going to have some kind of link below in the YouTube, or you'll find it in the link tree on the Instagram for Design on Purpose. Is a little way to actually contribute to the podcast. If you've gotten value, if you're enjoying the podcast, if you want to see it keep going, then and if you've got the means, then it would be great to get a little bit of contribution to getting this new setup going, so we can get things mobile here. But that's it for me. If you got this far, thank you very much for listening and viewing this beautiful view of Bang Tao Beach in Phuket. If you are watching the YouTube, and very much enjoy the Courtney Taekwondo Technician episode. It's on. It'll be on social media, personal branding. Courtney's she's a young person with a very interesting story, and has been quite helpful for me actually in my social media presence and building out my accounts. And that's it. That's it from me. Thank you very much. Planet Earth is a garden, and a work of art for all life. Ciao.